everybody, and welcome to GenFriends. I'm your host, Cheri Hudson-Passy from Carolina Girl Genealogy, and my fabulous, fabulous panel is here we're going to have a really fun discussion tonight. I'll tell you about that in a second. We've got Mary Kircher from MKR Genealogy. Hello, Mary.
Hello there. Great to be here.
So good to have you. We've got Jenny Hawran from Like Herding Cats Genealogy. Hello.
Hello, happy to be here.
So glad you're here too. And I'm introducing Laura Hitchcock from Treasure Chest of Memories, because Laura has got a project that she's working on that I thought y'all would just love. She is working on transcribing her one. Do you just have the one journal, or is there more of
Oh,
her
there's a
mom's?
lot of them.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, but I didn't. Yeah, so she's transcribing her mom's journal, and her mom passed away, and so this is really, really important, for her to be able to transcribe and share it with family. It is a treasure. Has given us an excerpt from it, and she's doing a marvelous job. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura so she can explain better what I did about what she's doing.
Yeah. Okay. So my mom, she always traveled. And in fact, she died traveling. She and my dad were on a trip to Alaska in 1998. But so I inherited all these travel journals, and she also did photo albums and things. But everything was handwritten. And first, I just didn't have the emotional fortitude to deal with it. And then life started getting in the way. But as AI has come online and done more and more with handwriting, I asked Claude AI, can you transcribe an 81-page handwritten journal? And Claude says, if you feed it to me 5 pages at a time.
Don't you love how they answer back
Wow.
like that?
And so I did. And I would say it was probably 95% correct. There were things that needed to be corrected.
Mhm.
But I started looking at the historical impact. And a lot of times that's what I do. I mean, that's what I teach anyway, is
Mhm.
like putting the context into what you're doing. And I realized that when she had traveled in the 80s to the East Bloc, what we then called the East Bloc. But this was July 1990, and her trip started with London and Scandinavia, which I've kind of skipped for now. But at the time, Russia was still Soviet. She got to Belarus when Belarus had declared sovereignty, but had not yet declared independence. Then she went to Poland, Poland was newly independent, and they had this really stark economic, like, we're just going to do all our economic adjustments all at once. We're just going to upheaval. Everything's going to be a total upheaval. We'll get used to it. And then Germany had been for 8 months, going on 9 months. There was no longer two Germanys. They were in the process of reunification. She'd
Yes.
been to East Berlin 5 years previously. And so she'd been with me. And so she'd seen it, when it was truly East Berlin, and she saw it mid-transition. So I just thought, this is such an interesting slice of history.
Yes.
And then I started reading. And also, the other thing she did was she kept a travel journal. Then she went home and made further notes and rewrote the whole thing,
So
because
cool.
a lot of her travel journal was just sentence fragments.
Ah, okay.
And so she definitely wanted it preserved and shared. I mean, it's not like me,
Yeah.
so I have no qualms there. And at the time I was looking at it, I was planning to go to Alaska with my sister, which didn't work out, but I was so touched with mom going on this big adventure with her sister, and mom's daughters repeating the whole thing, which hopefully will happen at some point. But yeah, so my goal is, and I'm still figuring it out and still getting feedback and trying to figure out how to make it readable. What I really want to do is publish it in a way that it's an accessible history, not really an academic history,
Mhm. Mhm.
but that it also isn't purely historical. It's something that's about my mother, her
Right.
relationship with her sister, and some of it, the American and Southern Baptist worldviews, they took with them. And as they looked through the bus windows, because it was a, what do you call it? In tourist tour. So you had to have Russian guides, you had to have
Okay.
Soviet guides.
Right.
And they had a Soviet guide on the bus, and then in each city they had a different Soviet guide.
Okay.
And so really it's just a transection of a lot of different things, this historical context and my mom's personality and just the way starts collecting the history of all the other people on the bus, which is so
Oh, wow.
charming to me now. And it
Jenny's
used
got
to
a
drive
question
me
for you.
when
Sorry.
when I was a college student, it would drive me crazy. I met the nicest woman, her name is blah, blah, blah. She would tell me, I would be like, never meet. But now I look at it and I think it's super
That's
charming.
very cool. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, so I'm curious to hear about your mom and what her background was. What was it like growing up for her? And was she, oh, did she always have this desire to
Yeah.
travel?
No, that's to me, that's the really interesting part is um, she grew up dirt poor. She didn't have her own pair of shoes till she went to college, and her feet were bigger than her sisters.
Wow.
So they were super poor. And my grandmother, I started this whole treasure chest of memories off my grandmother's writing, and her dream was that her kids would one day get to New York City.
Mm.
So mom and dad went to New York City on their honeymoon.
Oh.
And we all have this, I always call it, we were born with a travel bug up our butts. But what was so interesting is I spent weekend before last with my cousins who also, my mom's brother's kids. And I started listening to my cousins, and we were all sitting around the table and talking about travel. And the ones like, yeah, when we went to Victoria Falls and we did this. And I'm like, whoa. And my other cousin's like, yeah, I remember when we were in Budapest. I'm like, they're all like that.
Wow.
I don't know, but it was no culture. It wasn't a well-traveled family. My grandparents didn't even make it to my mother's wedding.
Wow.
They didn't travel at all.
Wow.
So it's
That's
very interesting how people can be
just,
born in a very
uh,
insular community
Hmm.
and have this desire to see the world. And I think some of it is my grandmother's writings. And even though some of it wasn't accurate, like there's no true French people left in France because they all went to Canada, but it makes them want to see the world.
it was amazing. I was thinking, so it wasn't a work thing. It was, she just wanted to go. And back in those days, who wanted to go and travel to Russia? I mean,
Right.
she's
Right.
amazing.
Right. And she had been to Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, Hungary before it was, when it was a Soviet satellite. She went in the mid 80s she didn't want to, she did go to Paris and London,
Hmm.
but she
Hmm.
didn't want to do the typical things. She
Yeah.
wanted to
So
experience,
it wasn't even family history stuff. She didn't have
oh,
relatives from there.
no, my Aunt Kathy did all the family history for the
Yeah.
family. Nobody else had to work on it.
Yeah, that is so interesting. I love this. Mary, did you have a question? Yeah.
And, uh, yeah, well, definitely, I'll ask one. Um, so that these names, the people that your mom talks about
Mhm.
that she met, have you tried to find any of them?
Yeah, I have tried. I have found, I might need some help with one particular one in Australia. Her her
Mary
name is
definitely can help
Angela,
Music
and
for my ears.
you.
and in most of the other travelers, my mom had at the back of her journal, she had some addresses and had last names.
Mm.
Most of them have passed that I found, but I found postcards where Angela wrote my mother, no
Mm.
return address.
Mm.
And so, yeah, because I found a couple of things that might be a hint from LinkedIn. So, yeah, I would love to find Angela and see what she has to say about what this trip was. And
Yeah.
my mom was 58, Angela was early 20s, and they
Mhm.
bonded. And
Oh.
my mom, she wouldn't have said it about her daughters, but she says, I like Angela. She's spicy.
Honey, well, I was thinking, when Mary asked that question, even if those travelers aren't around, their children may want to know
Mhm.
something about this because there may be not anything in there about their words, but it's where they went. It's kind of, oh, they went here and then they went there and then she went here, those kind of things. So they might be interested
Yeah.
in kind of a little calendar of, they might not even know that their mom or their grandmother, whoever, you could find did these trips and went to these countries. So I would love it if somebody would contact me and say, hey, I have a journal and my ancestor talks about your ancestor.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it would be
That's
cool. That'd be
cool.
really
That's
cool.
so cool.
That
Did,
would
did,
be,
I'm also like, I was thinking it would be, there's travel magazines, and so I would love to have it in a series and stuff, because I think it's a lot
ah,
of and
yes.
stuff at once to be
Yeah.
necessary, like a book. And also, even an ebook, ebooks, the format, they don't really do sidebars. And I think this is a lot of it, it would do well to have sidebars instead of just everything being inline text or.
Right.
And
Right.
then the other thing that I've really worked with that is a little bit of a challenge, but it's a fun one, is um, people wrote, my mom would want her writing to look its best, but I want it to be her voice.
Mhm.
So figuring out what you're going to tweak to make it more readable, but not interfere with the way she would have expressed herself and things
Mhm.
like that. And she took frantic notes from these tour guides, and sometimes the facts are wrong. So when
Oh.
I'll be interested in your take on this. What I've done up to now is, like, if it's just a trivial fact,
Mhm.
I'll just correct it.
Yeah.
But some things are very interesting. Like she's like talking about the biggest hotel in Moscow, which isn't there anymore, but she said it had 6,000 rooms. And then it had less than half of that. And I
Mhm.
started reading articles from that time, and Soviets generally expressed their capacity in the number of guests they could accommodate, not
Ah.
room.
Ah.
And so I'm thinking that is interesting that she misheard
Yeah.
it, but it's also interesting that that's why. But other things that she got the wrong czar, or whatever. I'm just correcting the fact, not to constantly have it. So what do you think, Mary? You got your hand up.
If she were, I mean, you can't say necessarily that all these are her errors.
No,
If
I
she's
can't.
hearing a tour guide
Exactly.
saying
Mhm.
that this had 6,000 rooms instead of
Exactly.
6,000 people,
Yeah.
it's not like your mom's a dummy and got all
Yeah.
this stuff wrong.
That's true.
It's could very well be that somebody else.
Yeah.
So I mean,
True.
you can,
You
in
can
my
note
mind,
that.
yeah, just,
Yeah.
yeah, I would note that and just, and maybe, in the preface, just say, that
Some of the facts aren't.
have been corrected. To,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and
Oh,
just,
okay.
Yeah.
Did she pick up any languages? Did she get to know another language during all these travels?
I didn't think so, but there's something that I probably will delete because it's such a weird thing. But in Leningrad, I think it was Leningrad, somewhere she found a brochure for an East German hotel in East Germany. And she's writing in her journal, oh, it has this kind of kitchen and the rooms have wooden beds. So she had enough German that she could decipher the
Oh,
brochure.
yeah.
So it's off topic of the flow of what the journal was about.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there was another time that she said a Soviet cosmonaut who was sent to prison. And I started looking up who it could be. And the first
Mhm.
one that I thought it was like, this is such an interesting story. And I'm researching and going in this rabbit hole, and like, but are there any others? And then I figured out there's another one that actually he went to the gulags and
Ah.
he had a hard time. And maybe that would have been why they highlighted that he had spent time in prison. I'm like, and I think it's the right one. So I'm like,
Mhm.
well, I got to lose this whole first guy.
You know what else I loved with the excerpt that you gave us, and I was talking to you about this earlier, is that it's not only your mom's journal of what she was doing, what she was learning, and the people, but she also throws in, and I remember this and this about her parents or whatever it might be. So it's almost like this double journal that you're getting. You're getting what she did and some memories that her travels are triggering. And I think that's fascinating.
For
I
some,
did.
I was going to say, for someone to travel that much, they have to have a very positive attitude, and that in that excerpt, to
Yes.
me, that came through. Just her trying to get on the plane and all the delays. Most people would be like so worked up about it, and she was just, I don't know, she just seemed like, oh, very positive about everything, and so I liked. It made me want to read more because I was like, what a great personality.
Well, and I was thinking, kind of sounds like Laura.
Yeah,
I
I
know.
thought the same thing. I
Oh,
did.
my first footnote, because the thing she starts with, we got to the airport in plenty of time, and I put a footnote because really what I wanted to say is usually mom would be packed weeks ahead of time. And she probably, Spartanburg, Greenville Airport, you don't
Yeah.
need, even today,
Mm-mm.
much time
Nope,
in
not
advance.
at all.
She probably, and that's probably why they were exploring the garden, the airside garden, is because she made dad get there 2 hours.
That's too funny.
But
That's
but I was even surprised, like when, I don't know if I copied y'all the part when her friend Angela takes them in her room to show her this random food that was left in a drawer. Mom mom doesn't even say what it was. Like, was
Yeah,
it crackers? Was it a
yeah,
whole
yeah.
meal? Was it
leaves us hanging.
Yeah, just leave it hanging. Was it German I mean Russian candy?
Yeah.
Was it, what could it have been?
it
A
was
moldy dinner plate. Yeah.
the building wasn't pretty, but they worked hard.
Well, and you've also added some historical photos, postcards, and things like that into what you've been doing into your manuscript, which really helps to get those. You can really visualize what she was seeing and what they were doing day to day.
Yeah, and sadly, of all the photo albums she put together, I have all of them, but I don't have this one.
Oh,
And my sister's not well, she can't search her house. And I talked to Aunt Nancy's daughter and back in July, and my cousin was like, that is my fall project. I'll go through. Mom had a
oh,
big box of photos, and I was
good.
telling my husband, like, I may have to fly to Suzanne soon, Sue Ellen soon, because
What was the dynamic between your mother and her sister? Were they close? Were they
they were pretty close. Aunt Nancy was older, and she lived in Cairo, Georgia, and she was a night nurse all her life.
Ah,
And mom was it's like Child Protective Services. She
mhm.
was a caseworker. And but Aunt Nancy came from much more, they both were raised kind of Baptist, but Aunt Nancy married a Baptist preacher, and so she had you want to call it, stronger Southern Baptist lens necessarily than mom did. Um, but I don't, sometimes I think they didn't know each other nearly that well until they were on the trip, because mom will say, Nancy's really enjoying herself. Nancy's a trooper. Like she wasn't sure how it was going to go, because I think it was way more out of Aunt Nancy's comfort zone
mm,
to go to some Soviet states. And mom usually booked like a year in advance these things. So I wish I could figure out when she booked it, because things could have been totally different when
Sure,
she booked it. Like
sure.
there could have been two Germanys, and Poland could have been a Soviet satellite, when she booked the trip. And that
Exactly.
because things were still like, at the end, she's talking as they left East Berlin to
Mhm.
go into West Germany. She's talking about the guides were saying we shouldn't have to stop. And then they're like, oh, it looks like we do still have to stop. And then they're like, no, no, people are just stopping for pictures. They were so excited, and they stopped, and everybody got off the bus where they normally would stop for passport control, but they stopped to take pictures of where they didn't have to do passport
Oh,
control.
wow. That's great. I mean, there's so much history in this journal, so much history. Things
Yeah.
that we may have been taught in school or lived through, saw on the news, that kind of thing. Your mom was there and saw a lot of those things, in the aftermath of a lot of those things. I think that's just so wonderful to have that. And I'm so jealous that you have
Well,
this
I'm curious
journal.
why you chose this particular. You said you
Hmm.
have several. Like what was it that stood out to you? Was it the sister trip?
Well, I started looking at the dates of them and I was like 1990 because I was living, because the end of this trip, she and Aunt Nancy came to see Matt and I living in Germany.
Hmm.
So I was just tangentially there at the end of her trip. But I realized that 1990 was like a really interesting year to have gone. And
Hmm.
so, and then also because she had rewritten it and it was, just on pages, it was easier to put in the scanner. I mean, that's a stupid reason, but
No?
the bound books,
Yeah.
handwriting was better because she had rewritten it. But I still had to go back, and I'm still working on it, go back to the original journal because sometimes I'm more interested in her original
Hmm.
reactions to things versus maybe what she thought out later or like,
Right, right.
you
Exactly.
know,
Curious about, and you can say it's none of my business, so feel free. The dynamic between your parents. I mean, your mom was of a generation when most women did what their husbands
Mm,
did
yeah,
or wanted to
that's a
do.
good point. Yeah.
And she went and her husband stayed home. Can you tell me anything about that?
yeah, I think it was mainly that he still had a job with, American vacation schedules. I mean, they traveled some together and like they went to like the year before they died, they'd gone to Australia and New Zealand. They had gone to see me several times. They'd been to England together. But mom's philosophy about a double income was not typical because mom's philosophy about the double income was the man should pay for all the normal expenses. And if the woman earns an income, she gets to do with it what she wants.
I love it.
What's mine is
I
mine and what's yours is mine.
That's great. I love that so
That's
much.
fun. That's fun.
So
Do you have like,
she would work. I mean, and I get it. I would too.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do
When
you have like a
in Europe,
process? Oh,
we had a chance to go to Africa and we were looking at how expensive. And I was just like, so how many months of just my income would it take?
yeah.
And he did a little bit of calculus. I won't tell you what it was. And I was like, yeah, I don't mind working just to go on a trip for that long.
Mhm.
I want to go to Africa.
Yeah, that would
That's
be so
awesome.
cool. That'd
I
be
was, what's your process with this? I mean, it seems like you're able to break it down, which is great. I mean, because it would seem overwhelming, in one sense. But do you have a process of, you scan it and then you
So
transcribe little bits?
yeah, so what I keep doing versions. So I scanned it and I preserved the original. So
Mhm.
we just have the original. And then I went through and just looked for just glaring things. Well, first, then I go through the journal and do the corrections
Mhm.
of the transcription.
Mhm.
And then I was just going through it and looking at what might really be interesting. And that's why I thought for now, I haven't yet attacked London and Scandinavia because I just feel like historically it's a different story.
Mhm.
And so, and then I started doing a lot of research on the places they went
Mhm.
and tried to think about what people wouldn't know anymore. Like
Ah,
my kids did not know what traveler's checks were.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh man.
And also the personal things that I wanted to highlight, like when mom was at the concourse at the airport and she said she called my dad at the golf course. This was
Mhm.
not on a cell phone.
Yeah, exactly.
But the golf course, if somebody wanted to talk to somebody that was in the pro shop or at the bar, they'd just call the main number and somebody would go
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 find
get
it.
them,
Go
Yeah.
page
bring them
them,
to
yeah.
the phone.
Wow.
you know,
That's
so
funny.
That's amazing.
So it's a lot of research that you're doing along the way,
right.
and
So
then
now I'm going back and I'm looking for historical photos where I can find them, but also looking at things that I really want to find. So my mom wrote at one point her camera broke and they were using Aunt Nancy's. So I'm sure Aunt Nancy had a lot more photos than mom.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that when we went through her house and things, we were very careful that all photo albums were not like put in an attic or a basement.
Mhm.
So it's really driving me crazy that I can't find it.
Mm.
But
Hopefully it will show up because
yeah, and then what I'll do is then like when I get done, what I really want to do is to find maybe somebody that's interested in international relations and stuff and get kind of a beta read on like what would make this an accessible history series that, you know, and I do want to make it accurate because, you know, I thought like one of the things mom wrote that I kind of put like she talked about seeing peasants in the field. And I'm like, wait a minute. They didn't have, you know, technically they couldn't have those in the Soviet system. And trying to figure out why would she have jumped to that conclusion. And I think she was farm girl. She was looking at their conditions and comparing them to her own. Or maybe the American caricature of a European peasant was somebody with their hair in what looks like a babushka, you know, which is the Polish way of dressing. So I was really interested in like kind of trying to find too the moments that are really an American lens looking at a different society. But then there's also very interesting, they had a long day trip. They got to stop once at an Eastern toilet. And so mom and Aunt Nancy weren't drinking anything all day, but they were eating caviar.
Oh,
So
well,
you have this luxury on one hand, but a complete lack of luxury on the other.
that's wow. Wow.
And that at one point the bus got pulled over by the police for speeding. And it was just too much for some of the ladies on the tour, and they went running for the woods.
Yeah, I would just think it would be so stressful. Not your mom. It seemed like she was cool as a cucumber.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just the way it came off. I mean, my Aunt Nancy would have really been able to tell us how cool mom was. But yeah.
Well, I think she's really cool. Laura, what age did she start these travels? Was it before she married your dad or after she married your
Oh,
dad?
after Don and I were older, maybe even
Okay.
college.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if this was a lifelong pursuit for her or just it came along.
No, and my Aunt Nancy traveled in a different way. Her family, they were like, she had been in California for a while, and then they went to Texas and they went to Georgia. And they would just load all the kids in the car and drive until they got there, through day, through night, whatever it took.
The way a lot of people traveled.
Does the rest of the family, I mean, do other family members know you're doing this project?
Well, a lot of my cousins know, my aunt knows, and this is a big problem. My aunt is losing her vision. And so she would like to hear this. So I was talking to her brother's wife, my aunt's brother's wife, who knows a little bit about recording things for audiobooks, about how to work like things that are side facts and stuff like that.
Right.
And so that Aunt Kathy can listen to it. And maybe I'll just do it with the raw journal and just like let her hear just what mom wrote and not so much the background so that she can follow it better. Because she's just now learning how to use audiobooks.
Mary?
So I am, and I haven't gotten too far into it. I'm exploring using AI so I have my dad's recordings of my dad's voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have the eulogy that my dad wrote about my mother in 1977.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to hear my dad say that. And so
Yeah.
I'm exploring using AI to recreate dad's voice and then giving the AI the text of
Wow.
this to
Wow.
be able to hear that. Do you have any recordings of your mom?
I have a lot more of my father. I have some on videotape. I don't know how I feel about it actually. It being her voice, but not really being her. Don't know how I personally feel about it. But I know what you're saying because um, we had videos. It was the last, my parents had gone to a museum and read The Night Before Christmas. It was a little diorama that had always been downtown in a department store where we grew up. And we always went on Christmas Eve and Daddy read it to us. And when it got moved to a museum, he went and videotaped it again and read it so my boys could hear him reading it.
Oh.
Well, after he died, I found A Night Before Christmas recordable book, like from Hallmark, where
Mm-hmm.
you could record things.
Yes.
So I recorded, like I played my dad's videotaped voice and put it to the pages of my nieces so she too could grow up with her grandfather reading her the book.
Oh, I love that.
And yeah, and so I know hearing the voices is really cool. I just don't know how I personally feel about it when I know that it's, because I think it might be more bittersweet for me when I know I never was there to hear it, that it's not the, you know what I mean? But I think it's a great thing to do if it's meaningful to you.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of, I a long time ago, I gave my dad a tape recorder and a list of questions and asked him just to whatever of these things that you want to talk about. And he did, and I've got several cassettes, I mean, of these different tapes, and it's just wonderful to have that. And I do listen to it, and I transcribed it all, and with my father's speech patterns and hesitations and the way he would digress. And well, before I can tell you about this, I have to tell you about that. And, I mean, my sister, her comment about it was, "This sounds just like Dad." I'm just reading this thing and it sounds just like Dad. Yeah.
Oh,
That's really interesting. I wonder if at some points, like in some of what my mom wrote, like, yeah, it would be really like my father's name was Lloyd, but it was only one L. But mom didn't say Lloyd. She said Lloyd.
oh, interesting.
And my husband, it was probably even more Southern than that. So to somehow get like that pronunciation, like you said, the speech rhythms.
Right.
And yeah, there are things like she did say something about my Aunt Nancy being worried about the Soviet tour guide because she was drinking champagne so often. And mom said something about Nancy starting to become concerned about cirrhosis of the liver, the liver, not the river, the liver. And I thought it was such a sisterly like poke. But yeah, if you're a teetotaler, you're not accustomed to seeing people drink at all.
Right.
And like probably in her world, there were people that drank and people that didn't. And there was there was no medium or moderate or heavy or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just found that very funny too.
Yeah. I love that you're getting, more of your mom's personality, which you knew your mom's personality, but there's something different when you're on a trip with your sister. You might be going to show a different side, maybe, that you don't show your daughter. So
Exactly.
I think it's a wonderful way for you to learn a little bit more about your mom and your aunt and their relationship together. I think it's beautiful what you're doing.
Yeah, I think I mean, and I would, the other reason I'd like to share it is just to share the idea of these documents are already precious.
Yes.
And then like Mary's doing, it's already precious to have the eulogy that her dad wrote for her mom. It's even more precious to take it one step farther
Yes.
and
Yeah.
share that voice with, people, or to take the journal and add a lot of context of what was going on that they may or may not have been, aware of. And actually, for me, because we kind of are living in turbulent times now, when I got to kind of making a timeline of the rip in the Iron Curtain, and particularly of the fall of the Berlin Wall, history was going boing, boing, boing.
Mhm.
There's
Mhm.
signs of reform. There's people shot and killed because they were protesting. And then there's more signs of reform. And then people are shot trying to cross the border. And then a border's closed. And then things look hopeless. And then suddenly there's more reform,
Mhm.
and it all happened inside a year
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
I'm sure people were feeling hopeless and full of despair. And I think that's even living in Germany as the wall fell. I don't think I was as cognizant of the ongoing despair that people felt every time hope wasn't fulfilled.
Mhm.
There was such a massive celebration and stuff. So researching it like from afar
Mhm.
is very different than living through it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
my son was born in December of 1989, my oldest. And um, last year I went to see a play at a theater about, and I'm embarrassed, I can't remember the country that it was. I don't know if it was Hungary or where it was. But like I think it was early 1990, there was like this governmental overthrow, and this play was all about that and just huge. It's like I had absolutely no recollection of any of that because I was dealing with a brand new baby.
Right.
And so how your mind just
Sure.
misses things. But then,
Mhm.
I mean, the Berlin Wall, I think, fell right about when Garth was a
Like
year
November
old.
9th, 89.
Okay, so he was um 11 months old. And so I was out of that new mother
Mhm.
fog and remember so much of that. But
Mhm.
this earlier 6 months. Anyway, just really interesting that
Yeah.
that time frame.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. So Laura, if there are people watching that are thinking, "Oh my goodness, this is wonderful. I've got some old journals." What advice would you give them?
So the first thing would be to work towards preservation
Mhm.
first.
Mhm.
And if you can get it digitized where you can edit and work with it, then go in the directions you want to go,
Mhm.
and have fun with it. Like, writing is full of research rabbit holes, just like the genealogical research thing. I mean, just let yourself fall down those rabbit holes and kind of explore. And the detective work is so fun. Like some of these hotels, I figure they have different names now, just
Mhm.
by how far out of the city they were and what they saw. I figured out what some of these hotels were
Oh my
and
goodness.
looked at them today. So just the
Oh,
detective
that's
work
fun.
Yeah.
it can be really rewarding. Or even if it's not a travel journal, just, a journal about everyday life. And then, adding some context where people can understand what else was going on. Why was
Yeah.
that significant? Or readers today,
Mhm.
Yes.
because,
Yeah. I love that
we're getting
aspect
older,
of
a
what
lot of
you're
history
doing.
is.
Yeah. I love the aspect of what you're doing because I mean, and there's nothing wrong if somebody just wanted to say, okay, all I want to do is preserve this and maybe transcribe it so other people can read it and leave it at that. That's fine if that's what you want to do. But I also love that you've taken it a step further and are researching the locations and the places and the facts and all that and adding that to the journal. And people reading it will know that you've added it, that your mother
Yeah.
didn't put those pictures in there and your mom didn't, do the research for these places that you did. They'll understand that. But I think it just takes that precious journal that you have and just makes it even more compelling for people to read because they're understanding that important piece of history.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's available still anymore. A year or two ago, I wrote an article for Family Tree magazine on editing.
Hmm.
Some of the things, like the older the journal it is, it can be harder for people that aren't interested in genealogy to follow it
Mm-hmm.
because the sentences are super long or words are unfamiliar and things like that. So sometimes it would be a totally different direction. It would just be looking at it and like, how do I make this more readable and more
Mm-hmm.
understandable
Right.
and preserve the voice, the writing voice, versus trying to make it into some big historical document or something like that. Just trying to make it accessible and have as many people enjoy it as can.
Sure. So there's not one right way and wrong way to do this. You do it in the way that you feel like preserves that writing that you have, that document that you have, and then just think about how you want people to read it, to share it, what kind of thing you want to do with it. And so I think this is a wonderful example. I'm so excited that you're doing this, and I can't wait to see the end product because
Mm.
we're all going to be learning something. We're going to learn a little bit more about you as we're reading this because I can just tell from just the little bit that you shared with us, you're a lot like your mom.
Yeah, yeah.
You're a lot like your mom.
When I was 25, I would have thought that was the worst.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you. Did anybody else have a question, or Laura, is there something else that you wanted to talk about that we didn't?
Yeah, this is good. I guess do y'all think it's going the right direction? Is there a different?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I
I,
think you're doing a fabulous job with
yeah,
it.
Good.
Yeah, it left me wanting, okay, I want some more.
Okay.
I know.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Thank
yeah,
y'all.
yeah.
Yeah. This
Keep
is
at it.
just wonderful. I love to share the different projects that people are doing because sometimes we get in a rut, I think, and we think, oh, we've got to do the trees and we got to do this and we got to do that. Yeah, we need to kind of connect people and know who our people are, but we also need to share who they were. If Melissa, who couldn't join us tonight, was here, she would say her thing. She always says, I want to know what my
What they had for breakfast.
husband ate for breakfast. You probably know, at least on this trip, what your mom may
Oh,
have.
I know. She critiqued the breakfast every morning.
So see, yeah.
Apparently, those Russian cheesecakes are not that great.
Oh, goodness, that makes me sad.
But I think it's because it was a different kind of cheese. I think
Probably.
she just didn't like
Hmm.
it, but I'm sure other people loved it and I'm sure they're good.
Probably so. Probably so. This is really fun,
It's
Laura.
fun.
Thank you so much for sharing this with us, and we wish you really good luck,
Thank
and
you.
and that those photos are found.
I know.
Yeah, I hope that they're found so that you can add those because we would love to see some of those photos as well
Mhm.
as you're putting this together. So thank you. Now, anybody watching, if you're doing some kind of project like this, please let us know what you're doing and any things that could maybe if you've got some ideas, if you're doing the same kind of thing Laura's doing, maybe you can help her with that time period too. Maybe some of the people that went on this trip with her mom, those travelers, as she's looking for them. So we would love to hear any comments, any thoughts that you may have. And with that, we will see you next time on Gem Friends. Bye, everybody.